How's it going? We're finally finishing the plasma cutter today. Yay! Now you may remember in the last video, we ran into a bit of a problem. Well, the problems didn't stop there. And I, in my hubris, decided to stop filming for a lot of those problems. So, let's let editing me kinda string together the video to get you all caught up to speed on where we're at. Are you kidding me? Not quite sure why that dummy thought that I would do any better at stringing the story together than him, but guess I got no choice now. Let's start where we left off in the last video. I remember it like it was approximately a month ago. Uh-oh. Bit of a problem, guys. This bar was supposed to have a counterweight on it, which was gonna run on the same linear bearings that everything else is running on. But that ain't gonna work. We gotta figure something else out. Alright, here's my solution. No, I do not have a super long linear rail, but I do have a lot of these short ones. And I think if I line them up just right, I can get the linear bearing to go from one to the other, no problem. So I'm just gonna daisy chain all the leftover linear rails I have laying around. Not a great solution, but it is a solution. Spoiler alert, it is not a solution. Bear with me here. So, that's that. Time to go install this on the frame. Ta-da! As you can see, here's our little gantry guy. He goes both directions. Whoa! I think the next thing that I gotta work on, getting the belts installed. Let's do that. To install the belts, I welded a piece at either end of each axis. One of them is a fixed piece that the belt just gets anchored to. The other end is a piece with a bolt that can be used for adjustment. The way the motor runs on the belt is like this. There are two idlers placed in front of the motor and a little pinion on the motor, and it can run back and forth across the belt by spinning the pinion. Now, the more astute amongst you may have noticed that pinion does not match that belt. Well, welcome to problem 1 out of 5,000. But this guy doesn't know that's a problem yet. Well, it doesn't really seem to have any problem climbing up the hill, which even that's surprising to me. There is one little problem. It just falls when it's off. So, much to my dismay, I think we're gonna have to make a counterweight. And make a counterweight I did. The first counterweight that I messed with was just a large chunk of steel that I mounted to the linear rails. Those were hooked to a cable that went up and over 2 pulleys that were welded in place and worked terribly. Remember those bumps in the linear rail that I was saying, oh, it'll be no problem about? Actually, I edited that part out. Here you go. It's smooth enough. I don't think the stepper will even notice that little bump. The stepper noticed. But that's fixable. More importantly, it was completely in the way of the cable chain. So I wanted a lower impact idea. My next plan was to use a spring-loaded pulley. And I actually tried 2 of these. One, kind of like a chainsaw pull string. Another one, kind of like a garage door opener. Both of these sucked. They did not have the force required to get the job done. So, knowing that the only problem that we have is that it falls when power stops being applied, I thought, let's just put a brake on it. So, I used this teeny weeny little cutie air cylinder and made a brake and installed it onto the gantry and hooked it up so when there's no power to the steppers, the piston actuates engaging the brake and stopping the gantry. It happened far too slow. No matter which signal I put it on, even on the enable pin of the stepper, it was far too slow. The gantry would fall and then it would activate, which would cause it to go out of phase and whatever. It didn't work. I think that just about brings you up to speed, not to where I am now, but to where the guy with the John Green shirt was at the beginning of the video. So, I'll let him take right over. Au revoir. Well, I guess that's as far as he could take you. So, here I am to get you caught the rest of the way up. Let's go look at the machine. Little bit of a mess, huh? Much better. Let me show you all the stuff I didn't film. Let's start with the most glaring and obvious change. I swapped out the timing belt for a timing chain. This is a number 4 timing chain with a cute little pinion. You may have noticed that my timing belt and timing pulley didn't match. The timing pulleys I stole off of my old plasma cutter, and those were some strange Imperial GT2-esque, but not GT2 timing belts that I had on there. And I couldn't find that type of belt again. So I used regular GT2 belts, and those were warping and stretching and just not up to the task. So I needed something tough. Hence the chain. To mount the chain, I just drilled a hole right in between the original mounts for the belt and stuck a bolt right through it. Easy peas. Don't look at this tensioner. Over on this linear rail, one here and one down here at the bottom, these are the limit switches for the Y-axis. I like using these little appliance switches rather than micro switches because they're a little bit more stout. They're accurate enough for my needs, and they have a built-in adjustability with these 2 nuts. The reason that I have 2 switches is so that the machine can square itself when it's homed. If we set each switch a little in and out, we'll effectively get to choose at what angle the machine is homed, if that makes sense. I've gone right ahead and installed the torch to the floating head. This is just a cheapie off of Amazon, but it's pretty great. And to make these mounts, I just cut them out of a solid block of aluminum, drilled the proper holes, cut the tensioning thing, and pretty obvious. I actually had to go through and stiffen these bars up. I just did that with some self-tappers and little pieces of aluminum. I've installed the cable chain for the Y-axis and the X-axis. I've plumbed air into the shed and put it through an air dryer / regulator. This all runs on a 1/2-inch line, which is pretty fancy schmance, but it's all pretty bog standard here. These are my solenoids for our little failed brake system. I just haven't cleaned them up yet. Don't judge me here. I went lazy style for the electronics. This is the PC that runs Linux CNC. This is all the CNC electronics in here. And I just got the plasma cutter dangling up top here. And honestly, that works perfectly. I can reach all the switches and it's out of the way. So, now then, let's put this counterweight thing to bed once and for all. So, here we are. 8 minutes into the video. And I think that you're all caught up to where I am in real life. So, we're working together from here on out, guys, I promise. I'm kidding. So, the problem that we have is the same problem that we started with. And the solution that we're going with is the solution that we started with. No more of these piddly frickin' spring-loaded mechanisms. We're doing a good old counterweight. So, I guess the first thing we need to do is figure out how much this behemoth weighs. I guess this thing's got an 80-pound weight limit. But if our gantry weighs 80 pounds, we got more problems than just not being able to weigh it. Who the hell has 80 pounds of luggage? Like, yep, gotta take my bag of concrete on the plane. Let's go! When I pull up, we're reading around 12. Yes, this is the best spot that I have to work right now. My life's in a bit of a state of disarray with the plasma cutter and moving the laser out here and everything, so the floor's the best workbench I got. I don't know how low this thing can weigh, but I don't think that this tube is 0 pounds, so we may have a problem with this. That's filled up all the way and it still says 0. So I've gone right ahead and welded a little bar in there so I can use the luggage scale. And it looks like we're at about 5 pounds on this thing. So we just need something slightly more dense than sand. That'll do. I always try to relish in the moment when my hoarding helps me. Feels good. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I just watched a couple videos and that looks like a nasty way to spend the next 3 hours. So, I'm just gonna use this thing to make sure that our counterweight isn't flopping all over the place. we're gonna stick it on a linear rail. Yes, the only part of my CNC machine that I'm using linear rails on is a counterweight. Shut up, I know that's dumb. First things first, we gotta figure out a way to mount this. Beautiful. Now then, we need to figure out a way to mount this onto this. Don't tell anyone about this. I think that was a terrible idea. I'll tell you one thing, it smells like a terrible idea. Guys, I'm just as surprised as you are, but it slides just fine. That's 1 point for the lazies today. Won't be needing this. Let's install this on the machine. To link the two together, we need a pulley. 2 pulleys, actually. Excuse all the background noise. The neighbors seem to be having a little party. Power-oo to them. It's like they think it's a holiday weekend or something. Don't they know there's no such thing as a weekend when you make YouTube videos? I've drilled a little hole right here. Now we can go ahead and loop a cable through and get that thing crimped. Using the wrong tool, of course, because who the hell owns cable crimpers? We can take our length of cable and run it through the pulleys, like so. Lift our counterweight up to the top, and then look for a spot to mount this to. Realize there isn't one, put it back down. Alright, then we painstakingly try to line this up in the correct place, because I only get one shot at this. And I am historically not very good at only having one shot. Well, I think that might be the spot right there. Beautiful. Ha! You didn't see any of that happen. Well, I guess you did see it happen from the perspective of a pulley. Anyway, counterweight is installed. We can clean up a little bit and give this guy a test. And this is the time that it will work. Did you hear me? This is the time that you're gonna work. Sorry. Be right back. Without even hooking anything up yet, here's a little something something. It holds itself up. I think we got this thing sorted. It works. Oh, you can hear the hesitancy in my voice. It sort of works. So, as you definitely can't tell right now, here it goes, drawing a tree of life. A huge one at that. It looks all fine and dandy, right? I could probably get away with this, but the truth is, the tip here wobbles. Not a lot, but I can feel it. Now, how do I fix this? I don't know. I'm kind of stumped here. The problem is coming, one, from this not very rigid setup here, so maybe a tube going across there will stiffen it up a little bit. But more importantly, the problem is from these linear rails I used. If I had any sense, I would have just bought long linear rails instead of trying to make my own. Because while they do work in that I get linear motion, they're not as smooth as a machine-made linear rail. So if I want machine accuracy, well, these aren't quite gonna cut it. Either way, I think I'm gonna move right on ahead with the machine, get it done, get it cutting, but yeah, a little bummed out. Anyway, moving right along. So, oh, terrible lighting. So what's next on the list here? Thing 1, slats. I'm not gonna put those on till later though. Thing 2, warpage. On bigger cuts, the sheet is gonna want to warp out and probably fall out of alignment. So, we need to do something to deal with that. And at the same time, we'll deal with some ventilation issues. This is how we're gonna solve warping, ventilation, and do our first test. As you can see here, I've got these little keyholes spread out along the machine. And I went ahead and traced the existing obstacles we have to dodge just by jogging the machine, which is what these yellow lines are. So, it looks like we're pretty good. And these are made to follow the slats. So, it'll be a miracle if all this lines up, but in theory it should. Now the machine won't actually reach all the way down to the bed where we need to cut, so I went right ahead and just knocked this way down in the clamp to be able to touch this at the bottom of travel. Here goes nothing. Ta-da! For a first cut on this thing, that was kind of a doozy. Now, the cut quality really isn't great on these holes, but it was only held on by one strap and flopping around 6 inches out, so that was to be expected. But these, for one, can be used as ventilation holes. If that's what I end up doing, this whole thing will become like a downdraft table. But for two, I can take this carriage bolt and stick it down in there. So in my cam, I can import a file that has holes that correspond with each of these little dailies, and I can put these holes in parts of the design that I can save to cut out last, if that makes any sense. Now that is a little more prep than a regular plasma cutter, but I am fitting a full-size plasma cutter in a shed. So, you know, that's the trade-off that I don't really mind. And when I'm cutting smaller shapes, I found that it doesn't really bow all that much, so I can probably get away with it without clamping. Anyway, next thing on the docket, slats! I don't know if you remember these things from the last video, but those are what will hold the slats. The slats will be made from pieces of 2-inch flat bar. You just go into one little notch, through one notch up in the middle, and then back a notch on the top. Would you take a look at those slats? It looks like a real life plasma cutter now. And I'm pretty pleased that these holes actually lined up where I wanted them to. I think it's safe to say on any cut I will have access to enough of these holes to clamp something. Well, let's put this thing to work. So as of right now, I kind of just have to perch the material down on the floor, which is obviously not ideal because all of this is space that we can't use. So we got to make some little material holsters, if you will. So, I believe in you, little guy. So, I blew the breaker, and we don't even have this thing at full power yet, so yeah, that's gonna need to be upgraded. Obviously, I gotta upgrade that breaker, but if I can find a piece that did cut out, like this one, look at that! That's nice! One, very little slag, and two, it didn't fall out. Now I know that's not going to be the case with every piece, but I was worried about that. It looks like I could be a little less worried, so that's cool. Anyway, these pieces will go on each of the pieces of 1 inch, like so. It's lined up so that the lowest point is just below this, so we can cut sheets in half if we have to. And that little tooth just kind of sticks out just a little bit. Enough to hold a piece of metal. So, let's get those welded on. Now, the sheets of metal get precariously balanced right there. Much better, right? Maybe? A little sketch. I think it's better. I'm back. What? You got something to say? She's camera shy. You have no idea how many times I said bonjour.
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 Bonjour. Uncultured American swine. Anyway, this is about the end of the footage, and we really don't have a big payoff, so it's payoff time. What's a large format plasma cutter without a large format plasma cut? So, let's put this machine to the test. I just want a design that's intricate and large, and obviously that brings me to Etsy, and I stumbled upon this guy. That is frickin' nice. I think I'm gonna cut this out. And yes, I will pay for it. I think I can afford that. Am I officially a yuppie now? So here we are in SheetCam, which is the cam software that I use to generate G-code for my plasma cutter. I've imported our piece of art into there. Now, before generating any cut paths, I'm going to import this file. And this is the exact location of all of our little clampy holes. So we just got to choose a few strategic spots to clamp this sheet down. We want to be sure that any of these that we choose are going to be in a negative space portion of the cut. We're going to go ahead and plasma cut. We'll do an inside offset of our cut layer. Blam. So we got these 4 clamp holes. Well, ain't nothing to it but to do it. Oh, and I changed out that breaker. Sorry, I had a licensed electrician change out that breaker. Just gotta send it. Oh my God, I'm nervous. What? No. I messed up the nesting, but we're all fixed now. Let's go. And now, we take our guy, stick it on in there, and then tighten up a wing nut on there. I've gone right ahead and done the rest of these holes just using regular nuts because honestly, they protrude much less than the wing nut. I've also cut all the bolts down to the correct size. And I'm not gonna pretend like that was easy, but I'm sure it's something that I'll get the feel for with time. Anyway, nothing else to do but to let her rip.
Hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
I majorly screwed up. As you can see, everything was going along just swimmingly until when I wasn't filming, decided to come stop the program here because I wanted shots of the straight lines getting cut, obviously. Well, I stopped the program and restarted it, and when it pierced, I noticed it delayed a little bit afterwards. Not sure what that was, a glitch of some sort, but this is lower than it's supposed to be. As you can see, it ran into the bolt head, and I didn't really notice it as a problem. I thought I just screwed up my positioning here until it went right off the sheet. So, yeah, that sucks. Failure is just an opportunity to learn. What did I learn? On bigger sheets, I need to have more clamp spots. Plus, I need my safe height to be pulled up more. So, I guess it's take 2. The problem, though, is I don't have another full-size sheet. What I do have, though, are these drops from sheeting the machine. I guess I just gotta figure out what pattern to put on here.
Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe.
The camera went to sleep, just like I want to do. It's well past my bedtime. We'll go over this in the morning. My neighbors well and truly hate me now. Well, it appears we have a good from far, but far from good situation here. I just took these right off the machine. These are not cleaned up at all. And they look all right, but I know I can do better. Some of these cuts are a little wobbly, and the start point is visible on a couple of them, which the start point is just tuning. The wobbliness, a lot of it seems to be in the slag on the back, which will be cleaned up if I were to grind these down, but in a perfect world, I just want to take them right off the machine, do very minimal post-processing. So, it appears that we're not out of the woods yet. Out of the woods? No. Out of time for this video? Oh hell yeah. Oh no, a continuity error. I'm wearing a different shirt. So yes, the machine is working pretty good, and I would say that it works just as good as my old plasma cutter, but I want it better. So, the problems that I think I have are 1, the linear rails. It doesn't cost all that much extra to just use normal linear rails. 2, the counterweight needs to be stiffened up. That's no problem. Just add a tube there. Blam. 3, I got a comment from one of you guys regarding the chain. And that seems worth looking into. And honestly, with the counterweight system working, GT2 timing belts should be okay to run this machine. So anyway, as promised in the last video, I do have a set of plans as well as all the SVGs for this project available on my website. And the plans have all of these changes incorporated into them. Now, since only like 90% of this plan has been tested, I wanted to do like a sliding scale. It's more of a like, help me out if you want kind of thing. But Squarespace doesn't let you do that, so they're $5. That's reasonable enough. And if you support me on Patreon, they're free. I'll try and post them on there. If I'm unable to do that, then just message me on Patreon and I'll send them to you. Thank you. Now, my website, as of right now, is cranktown.city. Cranktowncity.com was actually made by one of you guys. They basically got the domain so that somebody wouldn't take it for nefarious purposes. So, you know who you are. Thank you, man. That domain is currently getting transferred to me. So soon it will link to my actual website. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys this week. I'm still very, very busy in my real life job. So, you know, 'tis the season for fewer videos, but I'll be back as soon as I can be back. Now, if you like what you saw, leave a good old dinger. Think about subscribing, and thank you for watching.